All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're going to tackle one of those huge, nagging questions. What really matters more for success? Is it all about hard work, or is it about the head start you're born with?
I mean, this question gets to the very core of what we believe about fairness and ambition. Is the key to making it in this world just an unstoppable work ethic? Or is that simply not enough to overcome the hand you were dealt at birth?
So, to really dig into this, we're going to frame it like a classic debate. Two big ideas going head to head. In one corner, you've got the structural realist, and in the other, the agency advocate. Let's hear their opening arguments. Okay, so the structural realist comes out of the gate calm, analytical, and they're all about the data. Their argument is pretty straightforward. The system itself is the biggest factor. Success isn't just about effort, they say. It's fundamentally about your starting position.
But then, boom, in comes the agency advocate with a confident, challenging counter. They're like, sure, a head start helps, but it absolutely does not guarantee you'll finish the race. For them, the starting line doesn't pick the winner. The runner does.
So you can see the fundamental difference here, right? The structural realist is looking at all the external stuff, the systems, the data, the reality of privilege. But the agency advocate, they're zeroed in on what's internal. Your own responsibility, your discipline, and maybe most importantly, your mindset. It's basically the track versus the runner.
All right, the stage is set. Let's kick off round one. And this is a big one, because you can't really argue about who's winning the race if you don't even agree on where the finish line is.
And this is where the first real fight breaks out. The structural realist might point to the hard numbers and ask, okay, what are we talking about here? Becoming a millionaire or just achieving some basic stability? But the agency advocate would fire back that success is about upward mobility. It's about improving your situation no matter where you started from. And that leads us right into the heart of the debate. Round two. This is where it gets good. Access versus ambition. From the structuralist's point of view, it's not even a fair fight. And we're not talking about fuzzy ideas here. We're talking about real, tangible things. Better schools, safer places to live, getting a foot in the door with the right people, having the capital to start something. Their point is brutally simple. If you don't have opportunity, hard work is just what you do to survive. And right on cue, here comes the counterpunch from the agency advocate. They look at that whole list of advantages, and they ask a killer question. Does getting a head start actually guarantee you'll have the hunger to win? And this really gets to what they believe. Privilege can't buy you discipline. It can't buy you hunger, or vision, or resilience. In fact, they'd argue that stuff is often built when things are tough. Having a safety net might just make you comfortable, but having nothing to lose, that can make you dangerously focused. So what we're really seeing are two completely different models of the world clashing. On one side, you have that traditional path where who you know opens all the doors. And on the other, you have this modern idea that what you can do can let you bypass all those old gatekeepers thanks to things like social media and global markets. This whole conflict sets us up perfectly for round three. And this is a big one. We're going to take on one of the most powerful and maybe mythical ideas out there, the self-made individual. I mean, we all know the dictionary definition, right? Someone who became successful or rich all by themselves. It's that classic built-it-from-nothing story that we're all taught to admire. But hold on. The structural realist jumps in and says, let's actually question that narrative. Was that person really alone? Did they have parents who valued education, a teacher who saw something in them? Did they grow up in a stable country with a functioning economy? Their point is, nobody makes it in a complete vacuum. Let's take a real-world example, someone like Elon Musk. The realist will immediately point to his inherited advantages, a stable background, access to a great education. But the advocate will fire right back. Yeah, but what about his insane work ethic, his groundbreaking vision? The debate isn't about erasing one side, it's about how much weight you put on each. And this is a really important psychological point from the agency advocate. They'd say that even if you acknowledge your background plays a role, obsessing over it can become a self-fulfilling prophecy. You essentially give up your own power and cap your ambition before you even get started. All right, it's time for the final round. We're going to push both of these arguments to their absolute limit with a really stark, challenging hypothetical. Imagine this. You're born in a war-torn country. There's no education system, no basic safety. In that situation,
what does just work harder even mean? This question really forces you to confront the difference between what's possible and what's probable.
For the structural realist, this is basically checkmate. They'd say, see, environment is everything. But for the agency advocate, this is the ultimate test. They would argue that in a situation of pure survival, hard work and resilience are the only things you have. Yeah, the odds are astronomical, but the principle remains. The bell has rung for the final time. We've heard the arguments, we've heard the rebuttals. Now it's time for the closing statements. The structural realist wraps things up with a dose of sober reality. They'd say, look, hard work feels important. It gives us purpose. We get it. But when you look at the cold, hard data, family background is still the single biggest predictor of where you end up, period. The agency advocate closes with a call to action. They acknowledge the start, but they refuse to let it define the journey. Your background sets the stage, but your choices, your discipline, and your work ethic write the script. And in their view, a refusal to work hard is a guaranteed loss. So there you have it, the system versus the self, the track versus the runner. The arguments are all out on the table, and the truth is probably a complicated mix of both. And that leaves the final, most important question, not for us, but for you. In the race of your own life, which of these two powerful forces, your circumstances or your will, are you betting on to carry you forward?